I see like 3, 4 niggas running through the crib, all black. Man, I hop out, I start shooting. Bow, 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 bow. Shot the nigga. Bow, shot his ass. Bow, 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 bow. All the niggas run out the door. They run out the door. This nigga on the floor.
The paper trail. Let's go, 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 go. Yeah, 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 yeah. For the love of money, niggas come around. For the love of money, some stay around. For the love of money, what a nigga will do. For the love of the money, yeah. I gotta shake it, 12 at night to 5 in the morning. They don't give a fuck now. If it's for the money, niggas gon' bark and they bite like a motherfucking dog. Gotta party like a motherfucking dog. For that cat, I am gon' roof and I'm barking at that cat, and I am gon' take the roof off when I'm riding that ride. Rip, leaning to the left, but I'm stuck. They on the only right. I'm swerving with a purpose. A nigga been sipping on that purple. A nigga been cheaping on that purple. Cause I'm getting money. I'm getting money. Cause I'm getting money. And I'm laughing all the way to the motherfucking bank. And I'm telling her, tell me later. And she thinking what I'm thinking. Damn, me getting money. I woke up.
So this is one of the weirdest books that I've ever found. Thrift shop. Um, called So this is one of the weirdest books that I've ever found thrift shopping. It's called King of the Jews, a novel by Leslie Epstein, and you're like, oh well, whatever. Like it's Epstein. Named I.C. Trumpelman, who used his power to set up an authoritarian regime in the ghetto. His picture appeared on money and stamps. His word was law. Alternative con man, charismatic leader.
Protocol, the declarer of the universe and the person of the world root, sprung from the sacred seed of David, must fight for desires for the benefit of his people.
In the end of the protocols, the world, much of today, because of the support for Israel, the new Jews are Americans.
So somebody had to do it. I am the chosen.
It's an honor to be here with the first Jewish president of the United States.
Bang. So, Epstein is not a name, it's a title. Okay, reset, slow motion. Epstein is a title, not a name. Weinstein, Epstein, what other Steen, Berenstein, no matter the Steen. These Steens come from a certain spot, and that certain spot has a certain leeway when they want to upheave and just move to a certain spot. So they can start off in one spot, but they have a straight beeline to another spot. Under this Epstein title, you got free range to do what thou wilt, no matter what nobody says. Now, why would this Epstein title have so much foundation, huh? How would this guy be able to get away with all of this? You know what I'm saying? Huh? Epstein is a title, not a name. Abyss like type shit. Bang, bang.
So this is one of the weirdest books that I've ever found thrift shopping. It's called King of the Jews, a novel by Leslie Epstein, and you're like, oh well, whatever. Like it's Epstein. It's Leslie Epstein. You can read some of this if you want. This is the synopsis, and it's about a person named I.C. Trumpelman who used his power to set up an authoritarian regime in the ghetto. His picture appeared on money and stamps. His word was law. Alternative con man, charismatic leader.
Protocol number 24. The pillar of the universe in the person of the world ruler, sprung from the sacred seed of David, must sacrifice all personal desires for the benefit of his people.
In the end of the protocols, a Jew rules the world. And for much of the world today, because of the support for Israel, the new Jews are Americans.
So somebody had to do it. I am the chosen
President of
one.
It's an honor to be here with the first Jewish president of the United States.
Hey, get that right. Get that right. The new Jews are not Americans. Yeah. Get it right. So we got an Epstein who's very intelligent, writes a book. And the place time of the book is during the 1920s and 30s, I think it is. Now, this book just so happens to have an I.C. Trumpleton, or whatever the fuck he did name this character in the book, way before the 80s and 90s and 2000s. This guy wrote a book, Trumpleton. Mind you, Trump's last name is actually Drumpf, with an F at the end and a D to begin that name, Drumpf. So this Epstein guy is telling you the story before the story even starts, basically. So this is how they tell the truth. They were telling the truth in their books to themselves of what was to come. I told you they ain't that smart. Look, check it. They ain't that smart. I don't give a fuck if he is uh in need of garlic and a motherfucking steak. And we ain't talking food on a plate. These guys are not that intelligent. Just because they have intelligence in their titles. Huh? And let's just get that right one more time. The ones in America are not fucking Jews. They're making this character up. And let me guess, the book is about Trumpleton becoming king of the Jews, huh? Why were they calling Epstein also king of America? Again, I keep saying this. They were calling Epstein king of America behind closed doors. Not me. But an Epstein of some sort, an Epstein of some sort actually wrote a book, a fictional book, by the way. But this guy's a Yale grad, fucking sum cum laude. Why would he write such a fictional book with no background? Huh? Sounds like he's telling us what's about to happen way before it happened because maybe they're the writers of these stories that we're seeing play out right here, right now. And whether you want to or not be in their stage play, your ass in it, motherfucker. Yeah, like I said, you either a spectator or you own the motherfucking stage. All right. And everybody in the building, bitch. Then I say wanted, dead or alive. They didn't put everybody on the poster. That's all I'm saying is I'm making it out with the first letter of the alphabet and the word live after that.
So somebody, excuse me,
It's an honor to be here with the first Jewish president of the United States.
President Trump has broken so many conventions to the surprise of people, and then they figure out, oh, well, maybe, he was right after all. So we decided to break a convention too, or create a new one, and that is to award the Israel Prize, which in almost our 80 years, we've never awarded it to a non-Israeli. And we're going to award it this year to President Trump. This was announced formally over lunch by our Minister of Education, who's responsible for the Israel Prize. It's going to be awarded to President Donald J. Trump for his tremendous contributions to Israel and the Jewish people.
Trump is the best thing happened ever to us. That he is the magician of the highest order. That he's there in his irrational mind to create confusion in order that the human being can find new order. And it's not so stupid thinking about this in that way. It's completely turning things upside down.
This is really weird. 2 days ago, a TikTok user named Dustin Goodroad made this video about this physical book that he had found called King of the Jews, a novel of the Holocaust by Leslie. Evidence that a book named King of the Jews was written by Epstein about a protagonist named I.C. Trumpelman. This book, set during the Holocaust, is about a con man who pretends to be a doctor, leaves the ghetto, and then returns to lead it. This is Leslie Epstein, the author of that book. He was summa cum laude at Yale and a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford. From 1978, he taught a graduate creative writing class at Boston University. Some of his students went on to win Pulitzer Prizes. Epstein is one of the oldest Ashkenazi Jewish surnames. It derives from the small German town of Epstein in Hesse. These two men are identical. There is no denying that chin. Ashkenazi Jews emigrating to the United States used something called a Landsmannschaften, which was basically a mutual aid society, and they were organized by the town of origin. So if you were an Epstein, from Epstein, you would join the Epstein Landmannschaft in New York. These societies provided loans, burial plots, jobs, and housing. It was a trust network. You showed up with the right name from the right town and doors opened for you. No credentials required. The community vouched for its own. Leslie Epstein's father was Philip Epstein, and he had a twin named Julius. And these two men were screenwriters in early Hollywood. That's Howard Koch. The Epstein twins wrote Casablanca. This is one of the most effective pieces of wartime propaganda.
Bang, bang. I'm back with vengeance, bitches. Check it. So, Epstein. This is why I call this big head motherfucker Yakub. So, there's relevance. There's something relative to facts now that can back up that this guy might be Yakub. So now we got him. Now we got a Jacob and Esau in the story. We got twins. You got twin Epsteins that just so happen to write Casablanca. Hmm. 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 So we got an Epstein writing a book also. Wrote a book about Trumpleton, I.C. Trumpleton, becoming king of the Jews. Now we got two other Epstein twins that wrote Casablanca. Now, no, 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 Dirty Diana is going down here. What in the Dirty Diana is going down? So this Epstein name had to be in the United States during the 1900s, during the eugenics run, early. And we know that eugenics has a big play with recreating history, rewriting history, using the Aboriginals' own census taken and changing it to fit a narrative within their story, making the Aboriginals now slaves from Africa under the eugenics banner, and also creating a history for them here in the Americas. Now. There is a such thing also as whitewashing, huh? That also came under the eugenics banner. No, we ain't playing no games with these people. They've lied about history. Ain't no such thing as no fucking ancient Rome, no fucking ancient Greek. They made this shit up in the 1900s. It ain't a hoax. It ain't something that you can actually go find out if it's real or not. It's a lie. And they put shit in place in today's time so that you can look at it and say, no, it is such a thing as those ancient buildings and shit that were over there in Afro Eurasia. No, no, no. They have been using the American dollar, blood, sweat, and tears to go build Afro Eurasia up. Now, how many of those countries from Afro Eurasia has sent a check to the American people? Hmm? How many people actually owe the American people for their tax dollars that we've been sending everywhere else? But instead of paying us back, the people, we the people here, what they're doing is sending more immigrants here from the countries that we're already sending money to. And those immigrants in turn become United States citizens.
which also now they can collect tax from those guys, and those guys are now voters, absolutely voters, to keep the voter number up. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's kind of hard to get us Aboriginals, so-called black, so-called African American people to get out here and vote in numbers because we don't trust y'all. We don't. This is why. Why you got Epstein back here writing Casablanca and shit? Why all these Steen names got problems? Huh? Why they got problems with letting underage people be underage people? Why are you dipping it into their Kool-Aid? It don't matter what they doing with each other. Hmm? Not only that, you also running the government system with your sadistic way of thinking. And we're paying for it. We're funding this foolery. No, I'm not even upset. I'm highly motivated. In fact, I'm rejuvenated.
There is no denying that chin. Ashkenazi Jews emigrating to the United States used something called a Landsmannschaften, which was basically a mutual aid society, and they were organized by the town of origin. So if you were an Epstein from Epstein, you would join the Epstein Landmannschaft in New York. These societies provided loans, burial plots, jobs, and housing. It was a trust network. You showed up with the right name from the right town, and doors opened for you. No credentials required. The community vouched for its own. Leslie Epstein's father was Philip Epstein, and he had a twin named Julius. And these two men were screenwriters in early Hollywood. That's Howard Koch. The Epstein twins wrote Casablanca. This is one of the most effective pieces of wartime propaganda ever made. It's a film about a man who runs a nightclub, and the club is a hub where intelligence operatives, refugees fleeing war, and resistance fighters meet and mix. The owner, Rick, has access to everyone. He's apparently neutral. Neutrality is what gives him power over all sides. Epstein ran properties. He had his New York townhouse, his Zorro ranch, and his Little James. This is one of the most effective pieces of wartime propaganda ever made. It's a film about a man who runs a nightclub, and the club is a hub where intelligence operatives, refugees fleeing war, and resistance fighters meet and mix. The owner, Rick, has access to everyone. He's apparently neutral. And maintaining that position of nightclub neutrality is what gives him power over all sides. Epstein ran properties. He had his New York townhouse, his Zorro ranch, and his Little James Island. These properties functioned as hubs where intelligence operatives, scientists, politicians, academics, and compromised individuals could all mix together. He's been seen with everyone from the Queen of England to Mother Teresa to the Prime Minister of Israel to US presidents. And in those circles, he maintained a position of apparent neutrality. Rick's Cafe describes the Epstein operation in 1942. Put these men beside each other and you tell me, do you line? Shortly before the war, the United States government created the House of Un-American Activities Committee. This committee was established to investigate alleged disloyalty and subversive activities, including communist ties among private citizens. It became infamous for its investigations into Hollywood. The options facing anyone named by HUAC were brutal. In 1951, one of the committee's first witnesses, the actor Larry Parks, pleaded, "Don't present me with the choice of either being in contempt of this committee and going to jail, or forcing me to really crawl through the mud and be an informer." If you watched my video last week about a knock, I explained that it is an intelligence acronym that stands for non-official cover. Official cover are those who hold diplomatic passports. If they accidentally get arrested, they have diplomatic immunity. But a knock, a non-official, that's deep cover. They can never admit their connections to the agency. If they get arrested, if they get caught, they have to go to jail. After being called in front of this committee, Parks was blacklisted completely. He could not work in Hollywood again. In 1952, Jack Warner, one of the original Warner brothers, gave Philip Epstein's name to the HUAC. His explanation was, those boys are always on the side of the underdog, but that glosses over the fact that the people he named were all people he was in contractual disputes with. Less than a month after being asked to testify at this House committee, Philip Epstein dies. Randomly.
Are these supposed to be Germans from Germany? Mind you, Epstein name Germany. So I found this quite weird here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. What is going on here? Epstein is a title, not a name? So his granddaddy would have been from a twin. So Yakub's granddad would have been a twin. Let's just recap the story real quick by recapping the story. Let go.
Epstein. The original TikToker is pointing at the striking coincidence that a book named King of the Jews was written by Epstein about a protagonist named I.C. Trumpelman. This book, set during the Holocaust, is about a con man who pretends to be a doctor, leaves the ghetto, and then returns to lead it. This is Leslie Epstein, the author of that book. He was summa cum laude at Yale and a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford. From 1978, he taught a graduate creative writing class at Boston University. Some of his students went on to win Pulitzer Prizes. Epstein is one of the oldest Ashkenazi Jewish surnames. It derives from the small German town of Epstein in Hesse. These two men are identical. There is no denying that chin. Ashkenazi Jews emigrating to the United States used something called a Landsmannschaften, which was basically a mutual aid society, and they were organized by the town of origin. So if you were an Epstein from Epstein, you would join the Epstein Landmannschaft in New York. These societies provided loans, burial plots, jobs, and housing. It was a trust network. You showed up with the right name from the right town, and doors opened for you. No credentials required. The community vouched for its own. Leslie Epstein's father was Philip Epstein, and he had a twin named Julius. And these two men were screenwriters in early Hollywood. That's Howard Koch. The Epstein twins wrote Casablanca. This is one of the most effective pieces of wartime propaganda ever made. It's a film about a man who runs a nightclub, and the club is a hub where intelligence operatives, refugees fleeing war, and resistance fighters meet and mix. The owner, Rick, has access to everyone. He's apparently neutral. And maintaining that position of nightclub neutrality is what gives him power over all sides. Epstein ran properties. He had his New York townhouse, his Zorro Ranch, and his Little James Island. These properties functioned as hubs where intelligence operatives, scientists, politicians, academics, and compromised individuals could all mix together. He's been seen with everyone from the Queen of England to Mother Teresa to the Prime Minister of Israel to US presidents. And in those circles, he maintained a position of apparent neutrality. Rick's Cafe describes the Epstein operation in 1942. Put these men beside each other and you tell me, do you see a family resemblance here? Let me tell you about the weird timeline. Shortly before the war, the United States government created the House of Un-American Activities Committee. This committee was established to investigate alleged disloyalty and subversive activities, including communist ties among private citizens. It became infamous for its investigations into Hollywood. The options facing anyone named by HUAC were brutal. In 1951, one of the committee's first witnesses, the actor Larry Parks, pleaded, "Don't present me with the choice of either being in contempt of this committee and going to jail, or forcing me to really crawl through the mud and be an informer." If you watched my video last week about a knock, I explained that it is an intelligence acronym that stands for non-official cover. Official cover are those who hold diplomatic passports. If they accidentally get arrested, they have diplomatic immunity. But a knock, a non-official, that's deep cover. They can never admit their connections to the agency. If they get arrested, if they get caught, they have to go to jail, not work in Hollywood again. In 1952, Jack Warner, one of the original Warner brothers, gave Philip Epstein's name to the HU. That's deep cover. They can never admit their connections to the agency. If they get arrested, if they get caught, they have to go to jail. After being called in front of this committee, Parks was blacklisted completely. He could not work in Hollywood again. In 1952, Jack Warner, one of the original Warner brothers, gave Philip Epstein's name to the HUAC. His explanation was, those boys are always on the side of the underdog, but that glosses over the fact that the people he named were all people he was in contractual disputes with. Less than a month after being asked to testify at this House committee, Philip Epstein dies randomly, and there's very little information about what happened. Some unverified online sources say that he got sick or that he got cancer, but no one ever checked the death cert. Somebody in California could go today and pay the $30 and get the death cert, and we could find out what it says. Given the hugeness of the Epstein case, it's amazing that nobody's done that. Possibly because they haven't yet connected these jawlines to each other. But I think we should find out what happened to Philip Epstein, because that's in 1952, right? Flip over to the East Coast, and a man who zero photographs exist of, named Seymour Epstein, marries a woman named Paula. Less than a couple of months after Philip Epstein dies, Seymour Epstein gets married in New York. Seymour Epstein is a person that did exist, and in 1941, they joined the army. Then there is an 11-year gap in any kind of public records to say that this person existed. He does not show back up on any records from 1941 to 1952 on the marriage certificate. That is a very odd anomaly. Paper tripping is a documented intelligence technique where a dead person's identity is repurposed for an undercover officer. The fact that Seymour Epstein went into the United States Army in 1941
Seymour Butts, bring your ass to the front of this motherfucking stage. Your own Seymour Butts, aka Philippe. Philippe, bring your ass to the front of this motherfucking stage. Why is y'all always hiding under these motherfucking aliases? Okay, Definition of an alien. Definition of an alien. Aliases. Multiple different characters. Being a chameleon under the guise of the government being the stamp official behind this official move that you guys are making. But this kind of mind is well organized, well oiled. From the writers of the stories to the ones that'll do the dirty work. The in between is just as mean. Epstein is a title, not a name.
Certificate. That is a very odd anomaly. Paper tripping is a documented intelligence technique where a dead person's identity is repurposed for an undercover officer. The fact that Seymour Epstein went into the United States Army in 1941, just before the war, and is not seen on paper again until 1952 when he marries Paula, might suggest a repurposed identity. Do you think that these two men look like brothers with this as the father, or am I just being a conspiracy theorist? Let's go back to Casablanca for a second. During the filming of this movie, the OSS was physically in Casablanca. The OSS is the Office of Strategic Services. This was the wartime precursor to the CIA. If you've been keeping up on Epstein lore, you'll know he got his job in the Dalton School from Donald Barr. Donald Barr was an OSS officer. Warner Brothers is believed to have rushed the premiere of Casablanca to align with headlines on Operation Torch, a real war exercise. Then, the general release of this film was timed for January 1943, and it just happened to coincide with the Casablanca conference where Roosevelt and Churchill met in Casablanca to plan the next phase of the war. This movie was not a representation of war. It was the war. Literally, the extras in the famous La Marseillaise scene, where the cafe patrons drown out the officers singing, were actual Jewish refugees. Many of them in this scene are crying real tears because they are singing their national anthem in exile. Let's go back to this weird book that started it all. I.C. Trumpelman, written in 1979 by an Epstein. Here is the character description, word for word, from the publisher. A man whose fancy determines the fate of others, check. Thrives on the power granted to him, check. Creates an authoritarian regime of his own, check. By turns a con man, charismatic leader, and merciless dictator, check, check, check. The character's name is Trumpelman. The book is named King of the Jews. In August 2019, Trump quoted a conspiracy theorist who called him the King of Israel and said the Jewish people love him like he is the second coming of God. Is that a coincidence of language? Those are the exact phrases from this book. Donald Barr, the OSS officer who hired Epstein at Dalton, he also wrote a kind of weird book. His book is science fiction where a human diplomat becomes entangled with a feudal oligarchy that owns and sexually enslaves.
What is not going on here is a lie. This is a big, big story, guys. They want it to be breaking news. Mind you, news is just an acronym. North, East, West, South. News is just an acronym for spread it everywhere. That's why you got a lot of news anchors saying the same thing because it's written from somebody's train of thought that has the wherewithal to know the actual story that's taking place all over. Why are all the news anchors reading the same lines, no matter where they are in the Americas, when it's time for one national news to take place? Have we ever thought about how they get those scripts and who actually wrote those scripts? You have a reader and you have a writer, and you have a teleprompt screen to tell you what to say, even though you have the paper there. None of it came from you and your journalists backstage writing. Now you could have went and done your own legwork on some stories, but on some stories for sure. But in this case, this story is so well put together that this guy's been playing multiple identities for a while. We don't know what his face is, really. We know if we see that chin, that motherfucker's at it again. And mind you, they were playing with these genetics. Excuse me. They were playing with genetics way back in the day, way back. Doing, come on, they're making movies to go along with how things are gonna play out while it's playing out. Dirty Diana, Poof. Dirty, dirty Diana.
Who called him the King of Israel and said the Jewish people love him like he is the second coming of God. Is that a coincidence of language? Those are the exact phrases from this book. Donald Barr, the OSS officer who hired Epstein at Dalton, he also wrote a kind of weird book. His book is science fiction where a human diplomat becomes entangled with a feudal oligarchy that owns and sexually enslaves human captives. So the spy who gave Epstein his start, wrote a book about an aristocratic network that uses sexual slavery for political power. Tell me in the comments, what do you think the intelligence purpose of these weird books actually is? Do you think Epstein was a lone node or part of a bigger family dynasty?
Okay, so let's break this down. That was a lot to take in. In 1938, Philip Epstein of Casablanca fame had his first son, Leslie Epstein. In 1947, HAWK, or House Un-American Activities Committee, launched a major investigation into alleged communist influence in Hollywood. Major studio heads, including Jack Warner, testified voluntarily. Jack Warner, one of the original Warner brothers, told the committee that communist influence did exist in Hollywood unions and writers' circles. Now on to the Epstein twins, Julius and Philip, who were extremely valuable writers after the success of Casablanca. But they frequently clashed with Warner Bros. Management over contracts. Tensions were high. With Warner Bros. Management over pay and creative freedom. And by the early 1950s, the Epstein brothers were renegotiating contracts. Tensions were high. They had begun working outside of Warner Brothers' assignments. The relationship with studio leadership, including Jack Warner, had become strained. So in 1952, Jack Warner turned Philip Epstein into the hawk, saying he was always working for the underdog. A few months before testifying in 1952, Philip Epstein dies of a heart attack at the age of 42. So Seymour Epstein, the alleged father of Jeffrey Epstein, was born on November 28, 1917. Philip Epstein of Casablanca fame was allegedly born on August 22, 1909. So if these were two separate people, that would make Philip only 8 years and 3 months older. Back to Seymour. It says he grew up in New York City and attended City College of New York and New York University. In 1941, Seymour entered the U.S. Army Air Force and didn't reappear until mere months after Philip Epstein died of a heart attack at age 42 on January 7th, 1952. So was the woman in the video, Ally McForever, correct? Was this a form of paper tripping, a known intelligence tactic to create new identities? Was Seymour Epstein just a repurposed identity of Philip Epstein? Now, there is no photographic evidence of Seymour until well after 1952. In 1952, Seymour reappears and marries Paulina or Paula, a Lithuanian and Polish Jew. Jeffrey is born shortly after on January 20th, 1953. Jeff's brother, Mark, was born shortly after on July 14th, 1954. But if Seymour and Philip were one and the same, then Leslie Epstein
These are Epstein is a title, not a name. These are writers, top writers, movie writers, script writers, stage play writers, top writers. They can write themselves out or in. Yeah, 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 yeah. And they mob tied with the title Epstein. Now, this is not the only title out here that's mob tied. Look, check it. This is who has been running the. It's not just little bitty Yakub by himself. Yeah, 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 yeah. We know that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that Epstein name is not really even a name. It's a title. It's a branch, like an arm of the Navy. Think of it like that, man. This is way bigger than. That's how they can create the story while the story is going on, and rewrite that bitch in your face, and you calling it the butterfly effect, the Mandela effect. No, bitches, they really rewriting this shit. Stop playing with me, bitch. I can see you. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a flying karate chop, bruh. I don't give a flying fucking karate kid kick. You know? Look, yeah, yeah. Silence is acquiescence. Do I acquiesce to being ran into the mud and robbing me while you running me in the mud? Hell to the fuck no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We ain't playing these games no more. Bitch, we can see you. And evidently, these other people can see your ass too. Ooh, bitch. We don't even need binoculars no more. Bitch, you better unplug this goddamn internet or you gonna have some real problems. Or is this part of the plan to have us find this out? You ain't just well connected. Your family has been running shit. They're writing themselves out and into history. That's definitely from the top food chain down that you can do that. You got people calling this shit Mandela effect, butterfly effect. And who was in that movie? Oh, crazy ass Kush. No, I ain't gonna even say it. But he was in the shit. And look what he into. That same shit. Lube face. Epstein is a title, not a name. Epstein is a title, not a name.
A Lithuanian after on January 20th, 1953. Jeff's brother Mark was born shortly after on July 14th, 1954. But if Seymour and Philip were one and the same, then Leslie Epstein was the oldest brother of Jeffrey and Mark. So how old would Seymour have to have been at the time of Leslie's birth in 1938? Roughly 21 or 22. So it is fully possible. They say Seymour was simply a groundskeeper and gardener for the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation. But Jeffrey and his brother Mark grew up in a gated community, Seagate in Coney Island. Now let's look at Leslie, Jeffrey, and Mark all together. Man, those jawlines and bone structures, it never lies. Now let's look into Leslie Epstein. First off, it said he went to Yale University. What is Yale University known for? Skull and Bones, the Bush family, John Kerry, etc. And what was that book that Leslie Epstein wrote? The King of the Jews, released in 1979. The book is a dark historical satire set inside the Holocaust, specifically within the Nazi ghettos in Poland during World War II. The novel is loosely inspired by the real figure Chaim Rumkowski, the controversial head of the Lodz Ghetto Jewish Council. In the book, Epstein fictionalizes Rumkowski as I.C. Trumpelman, a bombastic, self-aggrandizing Jewish leader who collaborates with the Nazis while convincing himself and the people around him that he is saving the Jewish population. Trumpelman styles himself as the king of the Jews. He delivers grandiose speeches, demands loyalty, renames institutions after himself, and surrounds himself with spectacle and pageantry while the ghetto collapses around him. The tone is grotesque, satirical, and tragic at the same time. Epstein portrays Trumpelman as, get this, narcissistic, theatrical, obsessed with legacy, convinced of his own historical importance, and simultaneously ridiculous and dangerous. The book explores themes of power, delusion, collaboration, propaganda, and cults of personality under extreme condition. Let's go into the protagonist, I.C. Trumpelman.
You know, when I was growing up, there was this commercial that used to come on in between late night shows. And it was of a preacher. And his main line would be in that commercial of this preacher being shown to us late night when we were watching TV as children. He would say, "Who in the hell left the gate open?" In that preacher voice, right?
At the same time, Epstein portrays Trumpelman as, get this, narcissistic, theatrical, obsessed with legacy, convinced of his own historical importance, and simultaneously ridiculous and dangerous. The book explores themes of power, delusion, collaboration, propaganda, and cults of personality under extreme condition. Let's go into the protagonist, I.C. Trumpelman. Trumpelman is written as a performative strongman personality. The character is described as a murderous lunatic or martyr. Due to his role in controlling the camp, he is described as a king. Now let's go deeper. Epstein gives him very certain traits, including booming rhetoric and grand speeches, aka doublespeak, constant self-promotion, aka Trump Tower, Trump everything, belief he alone can save everything, aka the Q movement, loyalty tests, aka Q, rewriting reality through propaganda, aka Q, theatrical public events, think the alleged shooting of Trump, and even the supposed U.S.
I hope you guys are getting what's going down, and ladies. They made this Trump character up. I'm gonna shoot it to you straight. These are my opinions. Everything that I'm showing you guys and ladies right now are my opinions. But he's a created character, like NBA 2K. They wrote him into history, and he has no power. And the only power he has is in the pen of the writer. If they write it into his script, he can do it. But if they don't you dare. Don't you dare say something I didn't write in this. Did I write that? Bitch, if we're going to have to replace, the clown. Why is he always pictured as orange? Let's take this serious for a second. The clown attribute, why is he painted like a clown? Could this be from Epstein? Is a title, not a name? The writer? Oh no, we just chopping it up about the paper trail. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. 1979 also is when I think the Iranians may have released we're going to get to 1979 when they said they stormed into somewhere and then also had to release certain said people because of certain said thing. So this is also around the time of this book coming out. And in this fashion, you can't make this shit up. If you did, that would be plagiarizing because they already made it up. But you can't overwrite what they done overwritten. How you gonna reconstruct a reconstruction of a reconstruction? You're gonna make believe the make believers out make believe in you. You can't. Yeah. Sit steady while I bebop.
gives him very certain traits, including boom rhetoric and grand speeches, aka doublespeak, constant self-promotion, aka Trump Tower, Trump everything, belief he alone can save everything, aka the Q movement, loyalty tests, aka Q, rewriting reality through propaganda, aka Q, theatrical public events. Think the alleged shooting of Trump, and even the supposed UFC event to be held at the White House. And finally, his authoritarian leadership style, which, funny enough, everything Trump ran on has been the exact opposite of what he has done. Trumpelman also renames things after himself and demands symbolic displays of devotion. Another interesting thing to note is Trumpelman is often related to or seen as a variant of names like Templeman or Temple Man. Trump is the man to usher in the third temple, the chosen one. Now let's slow this down. I want to thank Metallicus for sponsoring this video. I don't take sponsors lightly, and I don't work with institutions tied to centralized control, supranational finance, or systems designed to consolidate power upward and outward. That's why they're the only digital banking network I'm willing to put my name next to. As always, in Metallicus, I trust. Now let's get back into it. Now, this detail shouldn't just be rushed over in the book. Trumpelman, the so-called king of the Jew, was the head of the Judenrat. The Judenrats carried out the Nazi orders. So I.C. Trumpelman actually worked under SS authority. He was used to broadcast propaganda, maintain influence, and sell out his own people. But he was still part of the system the SS created. It's almost like this book was pre-planned. Now, the novel may have predated Trump's political career by nearly 40 years, but the similarities are jaw-dropping, to say the least. Guess what Leslie's middle name is? You guessed it, Donald. And what does Donald mean in Scottish? The world ruler, the chosen one. When journalists asked Leslie Epstein about Trump after 2016, Epstein reportedly said the resemblance was uncanny.
Yo, team, the main character has team. Everybody shut the fuck up. The main character has hit the stage. What are y'all doing? Shh. Quiet on set.
And what does Donald mean in Scottish? The world ruler, the chosen one. When journalists asked Leslie Epstein about Trump after 2016, Epstein reportedly said the resemblance was uncanny but unintended. Very strange. Unintended. Leslie chose I.C. Trumpelman. I.C., or simply I.C., stands for Jesus in the traditional Greek Christian monogram for Jesus Christ. Trump sees himself as a Christ-like figure, and maybe he is more like an anti-Christ figure, the man of sin. Epstein said Trumpelman was meant to be seen as a clown and a tyrant, just like the two faces of Donald Trump: red tie Trump, blue tie Trump, law and order Trump, chaos Trump. I see Trumpelman, or I see like I see Trump, L as in God, and finally man. So I see Trumpelman could literally equate to I see Trump, the God man. Trump said this is going to be a golden age of America. The first chapter of The King of the Jews is titled The Golden Age. And now, just as this King of the Jew Trump connection is going viral, a statue of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein has appeared on the National Mall, styled after Jack and Rose from the Titanic. It is titled The King of the World. And remember, the sinking of the Titanic was the start of the Fed. the day the music died and central banks completely took over America.
We king of the world, Craig. Man, sit your silly ass down somewhere. Man, y'all can't see me shaking my head no. You just can't see me shaking my head no. Some things you can't commentate over. Or behind or in front of. Who in the fuck did this? Who put this shit together and dropped it off at this motherfucking spot? These people is fucking wild out here, bro. You can't make this shit up. You can, but you can't. Because they already did. But this little shit right here, this shit is funny as fuck, really. I mean, for a little while, I've been back here shaking my head no, like, no, bro, ain't no way. Who and boy, you gotta have a big truck to drop that off. And where the fuck did you do that at? At work? While everybody was gone, this what your ass was working on at work? You know, them the type of cats go to work every day, look forward to go to work. Cause they get to do shit they ain't got nothing to do with work at work all day. They hate to get off work and go home. They be talking about it like they want to get off work. Yeah, like, yeah, man, I can't wait to get off, man. I've been here all day. They get ready to go home. They in the car like, fuck, shit, let me take a few pit stops when I get to this. Don't even want to go home. Don't even really didn't want to get out of work. Just wanted to see it. Man, that's what this motherfucker was doing. In the back of the goddamn shop, working on this for the last 3 weeks. Man, this boy, and you gotta have a dually to pull that dumbass shit. But that shit is funny.
It is titled The King of the World. And remember, the sinking of the Titanic was the start of the Fed, and central banks completely took over America. Epstein's book continuously mentions the elders of Zion. What's even interesting is in the book, there's a character named Musk, like Elon Musk. We all know about the book Project Mars, a technical tale by Warner von Braun, written in 1949 but published in 1953. 1953 was the year Jeffrey Epstein was born, but let's not get off track. In that novel, humans travel to Mars in a fleet of spacecraft. They encounter a Martian civilization. Mars is governed by a technocratic elite. The Martian leader is named Elon, who rules for life and oversees planetary administration. The book is essentially a technocratic world government on Mars instead of Earth.
Bang, bang. Huh? Who's shooting from the hip, huh? Yeah, if I'm shooting from the hip, bitch, I ain't running out of bullets. What? Fire, aim, shoot, bitch. In that order. In the words of Little Scrappy Moms. Bang, bang. Yeah. So all of these characters you are seeing are just characters. You really think this nigga went to outer space with a remote control fucking rocket? A firecracker? So that's what you really think that just happened. He used a remote control. Huh? A Nintendo 64 remote control. Huh? Huh? And the firecracker landed right back in the same spot. Bitch, get off the mushrooms and acid at the same time. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, 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 okay. And don't forget who wrote the motherfucking play. Epstein is a title, not a name. And don't forget who wrote the motherfucking play. Epstein is a title, not a name. And don't forget who wrote the motherfucking play. Who they work for? Why was this guy the Great Gatsby? Huh? Who did they? Because he is the Great motherfucking Gatsby. Mr. Poof and disappear. Call that nigga onomatopoeia. Poof. That's that nigga new name. Yakub the Poof. Garlic and steak, bitch. That's all I gotta say. We ain't talking food on the plate. These are the shot callers. Your boy Trumpets and your boy baby uh and your boy I ain't gonna even say his name. Fuck it. They're both characters in somebody's book before their life started. That's how you can get the Trump card and the Illuminati deck. That's how you can get Mr. Mr. I got a remote control firecracker face ass boy in the story before they're even thought about because they're playing characters and Epstein is not a title. Epstein is a title, not a name. Play. So they're playing a part in this guy's family's play. Understand what I'm saying? Overstand it. Who wrote the play? Say it with me. Epstein is a title, not a name. So the ones that you think got power, think about how they got that power. Huh? And this is what this whole series really been about. It just so happened that Yakub's story broke. The Yakub story broke as I was breaking into what is the Federal Reserve System? What is it really? I have my own background on it, but I wanted to hear others' thoughts on what is the Federal Reserve System. So that's how this journey started. And right now, where I am at today with this journey of finding out what is the Federal Reserve System, guess what? This Epstein is a title, not a name, is at the beginning of this system. So I would have to say I'm right on time. And I gotta say kudos to all the creators out here who I've been reviewing videos on this whole Federal Reserve System. So, and it just so happens that you need money to move like Yakub has been moving. And you find out that his family is very well connected, tied in like the mob. Because they ain't like the mob. They ain't like the leaders. They the leaders. So, no, they was going to do what Baby Yakub said no matter what because the Rothschilds are owned by them as well. If you ask me, I'm gonna tell you that right now. Not less, not less. I'm telling you that a lot of families, a lot of people actually work under these different families that came here that had something pre-side up in the 1900s. This is like 1900s, late 1800s, because we're counting from Ellis Island on. They're not going to be able to say we got people from before Ellis Island time, 1890s, 1880s maybe, 1880s to 1890s. That's where we're tracking these people from. So by 1913, you have the Federal Reserve System. That was my journey. What is the Federal Reserve System? And come to find out, they're behind a lot of things, man. Like dropping the census for the first time in 1942 from 1790 to 1870. They dropped those for the first time in 1942. But look at what's going on in 1942 when you drop the census for the first time, and for the first time, the Aboriginal so-called black person found out they're a slave once you drop the census with the slave narratives that come out also. So for the first time, they found out that hey, they said we some slaves in these books. No. So man, check it, bro. Check it, bro. These fools ain't just right. These fools did not just write Casablanca as it was going on and backdated the shit. Boy, you think I was born yesterday? Even if you did, I wouldn't believe this shit. You know why? Because the best stage play ever was written in the 1900s by Epstein is a title, not a name. And these two characters are just that.
Jack and Rose from the Titanic. It is titled The King of the World. And remember, the sinking of the Titanic was the start of the Fed. The day the music died and central banks completely took over America. Epstein's book continuously mentions the elders of Zion. What's even interesting is in the book, there is a character named Musk, like Elon Musk. We all know about the book Project Mars, a technical tale by Warner von Braun, written in 1949 but published in 1953. 1953 was the year Jeffrey Epstein was born, but let's not get off track. In that novel, humans travel to Mars in a fleet of spacecraft. They encounter a Martian civilization. Mars is governed by a technocratic elite. The Martian leader is named Elon, who rules for life and oversees planetary administration. The book is essentially a technocratic world government on Mars instead of Earth. And let's always remember, Mars was the Roman god of war. Now, let's not get too off topic, but this isn't the first case of this either. Is this the Mandela effect, retrocausality, the future fighting for the most optimal present moment? Maybe. Look at the 1996 Illuminati card game titled Charismatic Leader Card, the back of a blonde man. Now look at the cover of the King of the Jews, a blonde man. Now remember, Philip, aka Seymour Epstein, wrote Casablanca. Now here's another interesting tidbit discovered by Escanor Reloaded on X. At the age of 13, Ivanka Trump was put under the wing of one of Trump's best friend and modeling mogul, John Casablancas, a known PDF file. Just an interesting synchronicity. But there is more. This isn't the first time Trump was predicted in an obscure book. In 1893, Ingersoll Lockwood released Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. In this book, the story follows a young aristocrat boy named Baron Trump, who travels on a surreal journey guided by a mysterious mentor named Don, aka Donald. Baron is described as the wealthy boy living in a castle called Trump Castle. In this story, Baron's journey begins in Russia, specifically St. Petersburg. Now, 2016 was inflamed with the Russia hoax, blase blase. But Lockwood's next book was even more interesting, titled 1900 or The Last President, supposedly released in 1896. In the story, the election of a controversial outsider causes chaos in New York. The book describes panic among political elites and a shocking victory by a candidate nobody expected to win. Now, if you remember the 2016 election, the pool was stacked. Hillary Clinton, Mark Rubio, Ben Carson, Bernie Sanders, Ted Cruz. It's true, nobody thought Trump, a supposed outsider, was going to win, but he did, lining up to the prophetic book. Trump has even joked about being the last president, saying, "Vote this one last time. You won't have to vote again." In the book, a government official was even named Pence. Of course, Trump's vice president in his first term was named Mike Pence. Also in the story, the book describes violent protests on Fifth Avenue. Trump Tower is on Fifth Avenue. I guess another strange coincidence. So, does this prove Philip Epstein became Seymour Epstein through intelligence paper tripping? No, I can't certifiably claim that.
Why they paper tripping? Shit, I'm just on the paper trail. Let's go. Let's go. Check it. So every character we're seeing on the main stage was put there for a reason. That includes all the other presidents as well too. Let's set the presidents. That all of them are in on this because they were all written into this story to have it go the way it's going. That is worldwide news. They're doing this on a worldwide scale. Now, I'm not just saying his family is the only family running it. Now, mind you, they said by family. If you moved into a certain area, you're bound to be, you come in already ready. Huh? So they moving in groups like that, bro. They're rewriting history as they move in groups and gain more power. And not to mention, Trump and Pence, again, those two words together make the biblical term in this setting, Trump Pence. Trumpets. Like trumpets. Yeah, that part. I'm on my outcast type shit. The younger outcast. Yeah. Since he blowing his trumpets, we blowing our trumpets. Bang bang. The real kings will always remain. Let it go.
Trump Tower is on Fifth Avenue. I guess another strange coincidence. So, through intelligence paper tripping? No, I can't certifiably claim that, but you can make your own decisions. Does it prove that Leslie Epstein secretly predicted Donald Trump? Also, no. But the timeline gaps, the identity questions, the literary parallels, and the symbolic coincidences form a pattern that is strange enough to make people look twice. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real lesson here. History is full of stories that only make sense after the fact. Sometimes they are coincidence. Sometimes they are myth making. And sometimes they hint at the hidden machinery behind politics, media, and power. Either way, when you start lining up the dates, the names, the books, and the characters, it's hard not to at least ask the hard questions. Now, if you stayed with me until the end, thank you. You are so very much appreciated. But I also want to thank a few people who really helped make this video possible. The whole video is linked in the description. Buy her a coffee. She definitely deserves it. Also, the TikToker Dustin Goodroad, and finally 2 of the OGs from X.